The 5D Mark III and the 5D Mark IV. These two titans from Canon have been used by pros and amateurs the world over to create stunning photographs and captivating cinematic pieces. Now, with the release of more modern cameras like the mirrorless EOS R, many people seem to be trading in or selling off their older DSLR bodies to upgrade. And so getting one of these second-hand at a good price might seem to be like a reasonable option, especially if you want to jump to the full-frame camera world. But which one should you get? Today we're comparing them side by side, so let's jump to it. So the 5D Mark III was announced way back in March of 2012, while its successor, the 5D Mark IV, was announced 4 years after in August of 2016. So what did Canon do in those extra 4 years with the upgraded Mark IV? Well, both of these cameras are full frame. And while the Mark III has a 22.3 megapixel sensor, the Mark IV has a larger resolution 30.1 megapixel sensor. The 5D Mark III uses the Digic 5 Plus processor, while the Mark IV uses the upgraded Digic 6 Plus processor. And one of the advantages here are being able to use higher ISO ranges. The native ISO ranges for the Mark III are between 100 and 25,600, and for the Mark IV these are slightly higher, between 100 and 32,000. But both cameras have the option to expand these ISO ranges up to 102,400. They both have 61 autofocus points. They both have a minimum shutter speed of 30 seconds and a maximum shutter speed of 1/8,000th of a second. For continuous shooting speeds, again, they're quite similar, where the 5D Mark III shoots up to 6 frames per second. The 5D Mark IV shoots an extra frame, so 7 frames per second. And of course, they both shoot RAW, an essential for any professional photographer. Now, if we shift to the ergonomics of these cameras, both of these cameras are weather sealed. They have both been built extremely well and fit comfortably in the hand of the user. The 5D Mark IV is slightly lighter than the 5D Mark III at 890 grams versus 950 grams, but they both use the same LPE6N type battery. They both have 2 card slots, one SD and one CF, and they both have a microphone and a headphone input. Now, up to this point, you'd be forgiven for thinking that they were essentially the same camera, but some of the real differences are realized in the video options, so let's talk about those. First up, video resolutions. Now, they both output 1080p, but thanks to the Digic 6 Plus processor, the 5D Mark IV has the ability to shoot full HD at 60 frames per second for some sweet slow motion video in post-production, whereas the 5D Mark III only shoots up to 30 frames per second in 1920 by 1080 and can only reach 60 FPS in 720p. Now, the 5D Mark IV can also shoot in 4K up to 30 frames per second, albeit with a crop factor of 1.74, and while it does have an option to shoot in 120 frames per second, that is only available at 720p. Dual pixel autofocus is another massive selling point for the 5D Mark IV. Using the touchscreen, you can simply tap to what you want to focus on, and you can get immediate focus without having to touch your lens. Autofocus tracking is another thing that the Mark IV offers, giving you the ability to track a moving subject and keep it in focus. Again, a wonderful option for filmmakers and videographers. Unfortunately, all of these options, the touchscreen, dual pixel autofocus, and autofocus tracking, are not available on the 5D Mark III. Wi-Fi is inbuilt for the 5D Mark IV, and although there is an option to get it on the 5D Mark III, this requires a bit of additional kit at an additional cost. For the 5D Mark IV, this is a great option, allowing you to connect your camera directly to your phone and download the pictures that you've taken, and also being able to control the camera with the Canon camera app. This is useful for shooting yourself. The tap focus and tracking can also be used here via the app, which is great for making review videos like this one. The Canon 5D Mark IV also comes with the option to get Canon Log or C-Log installed, and this allows you to film with an increased dynamic range, keeping the details in the shadows and the highlights, and allowing you much more flexibility and freedom when it comes to color grading your footage. And actually, you can film C-Log in 4K too, which I think is a massive plus. So when it comes to video, the 5D Mark IV seems to have the upper hand. But don't discount video on the 5D Mark III just yet. Magic Lantern for the 5D Mark III makes it a force to be reckoned with in the video world. Being able to shoot RAW at near 4K quality has made this camera an indie filmmaker's favourite for many years now. So which camera should you get? Well, ultimately your decision will probably come down to what you actually want to create and what you can afford. The 5D Mark III is still perfect for professional photographers, and with minor differences between the Mark III and the Mark IV in image quality, it's certainly the best bang for your buck when it comes to photography. And as mentioned before, it was the go-to camera for almost every indie filmmaker at one point with the release of Magic Lantern, and still scores quite highly in this area. The Mark IV has certainly been improved for video functions, and for videographers and filmmakers it is an excellent choice, especially with the touchscreen, dual pixel autofocus, C-Log capabilities, the Wi-Fi option and 4K video filming options. So price-wise, what should you be looking to spend? Well, for a second-hand or refurbished 5D Mark III, you can pick one up on eBay, depending on the condition, for about £600 to £1,000, that's around $800 to $1,200. Now, this is for the body only. Obviously, if you want a lens, you'd have to add a few extra hundred onto that. And a pre-owned 5D Mark IV body will set you back approximately £1,500 to £2,000, about $1,700 to $2,500. Again, this is very dependent on the condition. So actually, it's nearly double the price of a second-hand 5D Mark III. So I hope you found this content useful, especially if you're thinking about getting a Canon 5D Mark III or Mark IV. Let me know what you're going to do down in the comment section below. If there's any camera that you want us to review, or video or filming techniques that you want us to talk about in future videos, again, let me know down in the comment section below. If you haven't done so already, guys, do consider subscribing to the KaiCreative YouTube channel. And in the meantime, stay creative, imagine, implement and inspire, and I'll see you next time on KaiCreative.